All right, that's looking much better. We fixed our lights, we fixed that, we fixed the floor. Let's go over to photo mode and let's see what we've done. Click here. All right. Perfect. We're getting some nice reflections down here, right? That's looking better. You can definitely tune this a little bit more if you want it to be a little shinier, but this looks great. That's not as distracting. I can see the orbs here. That looks awesome. Very happy with this. Okay. Cool. Yeah, this looks great. I think one thing we can add is a lens flare right here. So check this out. So if we go here, double click lens flare. Now it's going to give us a little glow here. That makes it look a little nicer. We can probably do a little more exposure if we want. Okay. And let's do some contrast. What's cool about these effects is you don't need to re-render, which is nice. It's just added on top. It's a little too bright. Perfect. I could probably boost the lens flare just a little bit. I usually go by master brightness, and this kind of adds everything, which is really nice. It adds the bloom, it adds the streaks and everything. It kind of just makes everything boosted at once instead of going one by one. All right, so what else can we do? So we need to obviously fill in the back, right? Because this is just a floating horizon line. This is a little distracting just because it's like a bright light coming through here. So we have two options. Either we change the material here or we just pivot the camera a little bit this way, which we could, which gives us, a little peak over here, which I don't mind. So let's go there. Just store the camera. Okay, cool. And then we'll have to fill in this area as well. And I could probably also edit these materials to be a little bit, maybe a little shinier. Now I'm looking at it here. What else? I might change the leg color because I'm noticing it's blending a little bit. But you kind of see my process here, right? Like we did a base pass of the materials, things looked good generally, but once we see, the final preview, right? It seems like we need to do, some final tweaking. So let's go back, let's edit this. The curtain's looking nice. And then let's also tackle the exterior as well. So I'm going to go back. Okay, let's go here. I think I'm just going to darken this to match the wood over there. So I'm just going to double click. And all I'm going to do is bring this down and lower my texture. We'll lower the roughness a bit so we get a little bit of a sheen. Increase reflectivity there. Make sure there's no metalness. Perfect. And then this, let's do the same thing. Yeah, let's lower roughness. Yeah, it's going to be super, super shiny. I might just do that and add some clear coat. Yeah, there we go. Perfect. Let's just double check the legs. Add some reflectivity and lower the roughness. Okay, perfect. Yeah, we're just going for that little sheen right there. Okay, perfect. Okay, great. Awesome. Okay, so now we got to fill in the backdrop. So real quick, all I really need to do is just place some trees here, right? And, the house would naturally have that, right? Because we've got this greenery. So I'm going to go over to Content Library, and I'm just going to paste nature to place, and I'll do line placement. And I want to find something that's kind of large that will kind of cover all of the context. So we want something kind of fluffy, like we were looking at before in the exterior part. So let's see what we've got. Oaks are nice. These aren't too bad. I want something a little fluffier. Hey. Let's go with some of these elms. I'm going to click this guy, click this guy. Make sure you hit add. Okay, and let's see what this does. Okay, way too big. So let us increase the number. Okay, and let's just stand here. Yeah, you see how the tops are just like not even visible? And let's also move this out. include that. Let's randomize a little bit, randomize the direction, randomize offset. Okay. Okay, so yeah, still too big. So what we're going to do is just checkbox it, and we're going to select these guys. So what I can do is I'm going to fly up here, and I'm just going to hold down Control and make a little selection window. So isn't that neat? You don't even need to go here, right? So to see that again, I'll deselect. I held down Control, because if you don't, you're not going to get the window. So I hold down Control, and I just make a selection window. I want to make sure everything's selected. And I'm just going to lower the scale. Okay, do something like that. Okay, so a little bit. All right, perfect. It's a little bit better. Okay, and I can move some of the trees from here over there. So I'll deselect and grab this, scale it up, and then move it. The goal is just to fill in the gaps. Move this over a bit. Okay. All right. So a couple of things I want to change. I want to make sure that the landscape color is the same. So I'm just going to go over here and change the landscape slot texture to be more of this color. Yeah, it's a little better. Yep, that's more in line. So it's a little closer. Okay. And now let's see what happens when we render. How much of this is visible? Okay, good. So good. That's glowing. Right. So we don't see like the horizon line. So I could probably fill in right here with a tree, but this is nice that we kind of see these trees out here. So let's do that. I'm going to go back to content library and let's do my favorite alt click. Okay. Let's go back. Okay. And it's this one right on the edge. Let's see. Yeah, right here. Okay. So let's move that. And I'm going to shrink this guy even more. And let's just fill this up. Perfect. Let's go back one more time. Okay, let's click photo again. And we're still missing that. How are we missing that? Okay, let's move this a little bit more. Let's try it one more time. There we go. Okay, good. All right, awesome. Yeah, this looks beautiful. Really happy with this. So now that we've done all this work, right, we added, the start of an effect stack. Let's just finish it up before we copy around. And one thing I want to point out is there's two ways of handling the effect stacks. So right now we've been doing it on a per image basis, but you can actually do a master effect list. And what this would do is you can basically create a stack that's for all the images. So what are the pros of this? You just do it once and it applies to all the images. The con is if you want each image to be a little different, you're going to have to kind of fight against this. So what I mean by that is if I go to effects here, and then I go over to ray tracing, now I've got, ray tracing here, but then I have ray tracing over here. So look at that. So now it's saying that it's being used elsewhere. So, that's what I mean by that. There's nothing wrong with that. You could definitely do both ways, but you should, experiment and see what you like best. If I know these are going to be identical all the way across, then yeah, I'd probably do master. So what that would look like is if I go over here and I just copy this, copy effect list, and then go to master effect, and then paste this. Then I go here, see how I'm getting that error? I'm just going to delete it, clear effect stack. So it looks like the rendering we made before, right? But that's because it's coming from the master effect list. So that's kind of cool, right? So you've got that as a feature. So now if I make a new image, right? Let's just say I go here, somewhere around here, just hypothetically, right? and then I would render this, it's taking the settings from the master list. So this is great for bulk renderings. Like you've got 10 different views. They're not going to change too much. That's the point of that. So super helpful. That's why I point this out. So actually, let's set this view up. So we have the option of doing something like this. This is really nice. Just know that we're going to have to add a backdrop here. I want to make sure my height's correct. So let's move down a little. I want to make sure I'm getting both regions. Yeah, that's great. Okay. And so what I would probably do here is I want a different time of day. So I'd actually just drive it on this image instead of the master list. So let's say I wanted the sun coming like this, right? Instead of how we had it before, I would customize it here. So like we did before, I'd have this at 3. This around 3 as well. And this cranked up. So that way, this is overriding the master list. Okay, so something to be aware of. All right, so this is cool. A couple things I could do. Probably play with the focal length. So let's do that. I want to see a little more. Okay, and I'm just going to store that. Okay, and then I just want to do like a horizontal shot like this. In here, I'd probably bring in the focal length just because I don't want to see the ceiling and the sky, the ceiling and the floor as much. I'm just using the middle mouse wheel to kind of position my height here. Okay, so I've got this. That's great. Beautiful. One other master effect list we could use is the 2-point perspective. If you remember the straight lines. So let's go over to camera and let's add, let's go to featured, 2-point. Make sure all our verticals are there. Perfect. Let's go back to add effect. And now we're just building up our stack. Okay, we've got that already. Lighting we've done. Depth of field we did not do. So this is one you might need to change on a per image basis. Again, this is based on how far away the camera is to the focal point. So if I add a generic autofocus, some images might be blurred out. So this I would probably do on a per image basis. So let's just say I set this image up, right? I would do autofocus. I would hit my focal point. And then I would just add, whatever I want. Leave it at 10. I don't like to go beyond that. And I would just copy this and then go to the image here, hit paste. Then I'd go here. Sorry, looks like it's grabbing the wrong thing. I just want depth of field. Delete this. So all I would do is add depth of field here after copying, and then I can hit paste. There we go. And so I could do the same thing. You need to add the depth of field, otherwise it's going to add the whole effect stack, and that's not what we want. So depth of field, I'm going to paste the settings, but then I'm going to change my focal point. So let's say it's that, right? Okay, and then I go to this one, and then I go depth of field, edit again, say it's that. Okay, and then on the master list, I would just turn it off because I don't need it, right? Okay, so think about, which effect you would need as a master or per image basis. It's a great new workflow that they've added. Super happy about that. It makes things a little bit easier, especially, like ray tracing. You should be using this on every single image, right? So why not? So that makes plenty of sense. All right, so let's continue customizing these a little bit more. Let's add our backdrop in here. Let's get more trees. So I'm gonna go over here. And all I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do my control box again, right? I'm gonna hold down Alt and drag these out. There you go. So now when I go back to photo mode, okay. All right. So you see how we can see the bottoms here? That's not too great. So I'd probably put like some low-lying like shrubs or something to help block this. But overall, this is looking really nice. I love all the light that's coming through here. Really beautiful. Okay, so let's go back. So let's do that. Let's go to nature. Let's go place. And let's look for some sort of shrub. Let's go plants. Don't mind that boxwood or the azaleas. This will actually work really nicely. So watch this. So now if I make a hedge here, and I rotate this, let's just make sure this is in our view. Might be a little shy of it. Right, so let's just keep moving it further. Right. So we're gonna scoot this down. Yeah, there we go. Okay, and I'm just gonna do an Alt. Okay, and then I can rotate this. So we're making like a little organic fence here. Just so we're not seeing that flat, harsh line. Okay, perfect. Okay, great. And now let's go back to photo mode. Perfect. So I'm going to add a little bit more to the right. Okay. Boom. And boom. I just want to make sure they're aligned a little bit better. Awesome. And you can scale it down or make it larger, whatever you like, but that looks great. So let's go back. Let's check this again. I know it's a lot of switching, but it's nice having this preview here, right? That's awesome. Cool. We're getting some nice reflections here. Light there. Awesome. We've got some awesome lens flares here. The light here looks nice. Yeah, this is looking really beautiful. Okay, let's check this guy. Okay, I like the reflections here and here. That's working properly. I like that we have vegetation out here. I'd probably just center this a little bit more. Yeah, just so I'm under that light fixture. So I'm going to store that. And now the best part of this is like I can just keep making new views, right? And I'm going to have all these great settings ready to go. So if I want to have some like really nice detailed shots, something like this, you know, this is more for us having fun. Grab my depth of field. Do autofocus. Grab the faucet, right? Let's crank this up. Let's go crazy. A nice blur. Boom. Now we've got this beautiful view. This has got a nice blur you could see here. This is totally in focus. We've got the nice soft lighting here. And that took no time at all, right? It's because of that master list. So like I was saying, pros and cons, you know, you can use it for all these views or you could just copy per view. But really nice that this was added. But yeah, that looks great. Super nice. We've got some nice weathering here. Look at the lighting there. That's great. Awesome. Yeah, and the reflections just look beautiful here. Awesome. So I'm going to fly around and just take a couple more detail shots. I personally just like love doing these. I love the close-up shots, especially when like the materials and the lighting is done beautifully. It's awesome. Like this is why we do ARC vids, right? So I want to get like the plants and the lights in here. Yeah, these are great. And what I could do is actually play with the aspect ratio. So let me just save this for a second. And let's go the other way, right? Let's go vertical. And let's do something like this. That's cool that the plant is coming through here. So I've got some cool things I could do here. I could change the width a little bit. Yeah, just so it's a little wider. And then I could just bring this out just a bit. Oh, that's kind of cool that the curtain is there. So let's see if we can make this work. So I'm acting like a photographer here because that's really what we are, right? This is a digital camera that we have. I'm going to save this. I know the window's in the way, but what are we going to use? If you remember, our clipping plane, right? So I'm going to go to Tools. Let's grab this guy. Perfect. Just want, yeah, there you go. So now if I save this, yeah, that looks cool. The curtain's going to start appearing. Yeah, super cool. So we've got our beautiful stainless material, our brass, our woods here, curtain. Yeah, awesome. So I'll save this. And I really like this type of view, so I'm just going to paste it. And I'm going to fly around and try and find new awesome angles. And the thing I should be doing, which I forgot to do here, is just make sure I'm doing the depth of field, right? Because that's something that's going to be changing for each of these. So I'm going to go depth of field. Okay, autofocus. I go edit, find my focal point, check mark, and I just increase the amount. Again, 10 is like usually where I'm at. Any more than that, it gets a little too much. Okay, let's go here. Depth of field, and I'm just going to paste it here. And it's the same focal point, so I'm okay with that. Okay, great. Awesome. Yeah, this, I think I might just change this door to be solid. That way it's not taking away from this image. So let's do that. Take some creative liberties. Perfect. So now when I go back to that view, yeah. Yeah, now I can just focus on this. Yeah, this looks beautiful. The other thing I would do, since we're talking about, global effects, I'd probably add a little sharpen to all this because it gets a little hard to see or differentiate over here. So what I would do is go to master and let's go to sharpen. Okay, we'll add that. And let's see, that's 100%. I also don't mind this as a wide shot. I know it removes our vertical aspect ratio, but this is a beautiful shot as well. But that's kind of the fun part of this. Like you take an angle somewhere, you think that's the right shot, and then once you actually see it come out, you're like, oh wow, it actually looks better. I'm actually fine with 100. I like that. Yeah, that's totally cool. Yeah, and I could just copy this, duplicate it, and just swap the aspect ratio. That'd be whatever I need it to be. I'd probably just change the material here. That way it's something like realistic instead of the default. But I'll leave that up to you guys. All right, cool. So this was fun. So we made a bunch of great renderings here. These two rooms just generated like 10 renderings. Like that's amazing. So we have all these different rooms in the houses. Again, this is like a bonus of the course. I want you guys to render these spaces using everything you learned here. And I want to see it. Definitely share your renderings with me. You've got a great little office here. You've got your living room. You've got a foyer here with a cool chandelier. We also have some bathrooms up here. Somewhere in here. Sorry, maybe it's downstairs. There you go. You got a bedroom too, and the bathroom. So plenty of rooms for you to customize. But really, the point is, try and find a reference image of like what the style is, what you're trying to target, and then use the Lumion library as much as you can to do all the materials for you. It's so much quicker than finding texture maps, loading them in, and customizing them one by one. And once you have that, tweak your natural lighting, tweak your artificial lighting, and then take renderings and have fun. So now that we've got our base renderings here, let's talk a little bit about animations. So let's talk about animations in the next video.